This is the Endeavour Air pilot monitoring pre-flight procedure with first flight of day test. This video starts after AC power has been established on the aircraft. If you'd like to see the electrical power-up procedure, see the previous video. Proceeding to the overhead panel to start. Taking a look at the electrical panel, our DC service switch is selected to off, our battery master is on, our AC service switch is selected out currently because we do not have AC electrical power from the ground in use. We are running AC off of the APU. Normally in the aircraft, this switch is left pressed in. On the 200, this switch needs to be pressed out when AC is not in use, but on the 900 it can be in either position. Our IDG switch lights are deselected and guarded, and the lights are out. Our AC essential switch light, our AC essential transfer switch light is out, and our auto transfer switch lights are out. Our Gen 1, APU Gen, and Gen 2 switches are all in the auto position. First flight of day test for the fire detection system. We'll go ahead and press the fire detection button. Coming down to the glare shield, we're looking for our fire push switch lights for the left engine, the right engine, and the APU. We're also looking for our bottle arm push to discharge switch lights that are associated with those. We get a fire system OK advisory message, and we also come down and check the cargo FireX push switch lights as well as the push to discharge squib. That's a successful fire detection test. Onto our hydraulic panel, both left and right hand hydraulic shutoff valve switch lights are in the out position. They're guarded and the lights are out. External lights set as appropriate. At the gate, we usually have the nav and the logo light on if equipped. Some 900s don't have a logo light. If they don't, then that switch won't be present. Other than that, all other light switches are off. Come to check, our ELT is in the arm reset position, and our passenger oxygen switch light is out and guarded. On our fuel panel, our left and right hand boost pump switch lights are out and the in-op lights are displayed. Our gravity crossflow, auto crossflow override, left and right hand transfer switch lights are out and off. On the bleed air panel, our wing anti-ice cross bleed selector is in normal. Our bleed valve selector is in the auto position. Isolation valve is selected closed, and the bleed source selector is on both. The APU panel is already set as the APU is currently running. Our engine start and ignition panel. The engine start stop switch lights are out and off. The ignition is also, the continuous ignition switch light is selected out and off. Moving on to our hydraulic panel for the first flight of day test for this system. First thing we want to do is verify that our no hydraulic SOV advisory messages posted, which would be in green, and we want to come and check that our stab trim caution message is displayed on ED1. If for some reason the stab trim caution message is not displayed, we can come over to the yoke, and on the front of the yoke we can press the stab trim disconnect switch light. Now that that's been accomplished, we can select the hydraulic synoptic page and then come up and turn on the 1B, 3B, and 2B pumps. Checking the ICAS page, we're looking for good pressure, temperature, and quantity. The CRJ talks to us in colors. If everything is green, we're good to go. If we see anything in white or yellow or any other color than green, that's a cause for concern. Now we can go back to the stat page. Down on the center pedestal, we'll engage the stab trim, each channel one at a time, Don't select them both at once. We do one then the other. Observing the status message come up for channel 2 and up. I will engage channel 2 now. And spoiler stab in test posts. Normally, you will never see this advisory message, but that is how quickly that message posts. While this advisory message is being displayed, you are not allowed to change the hydraulic pump configuration or manipulate the flight controls, as if we go to the flight control page, we notice our spoilers are currently being tested. This test takes about 60 seconds to complete. Once the advisory message disappears, we can continue on with the hydraulic test. Now that the message is gone, I will return to the hydraulics page. And the same 3 switches that I just moved, I will now move to the auto position. So the 1B switch, 3B switch, and the 2B switch go into the auto, and we come back to the hydraulic synoptic page to observe pressure depletion. Once we see that all 3 systems are depleting in pressure, I can turn on the hydraulic 3A for the normal operations and observe system 3 at 3,000 psi with the A pump running. That completes the hydraulics first flight of day test. Moving up to the cabin pressurization panel, this switch is slightly bent, but our man-alt switch is in hold. This is centered, even though it's kind of bent right now. That is the center position, at least for this switch. Man rate selector is to full decrease. Our pressurization controller switch is out and off, and our emergency depress switch light is out, guarded, and off. Our cabin pressurization will be set to the expected airport, our landing elevation, either to the highest airport, whether it's departure or destination. So if our departure airport is 1,000 feet AFE or MSL, and our destination airport is 300 feet MSL, we would set 1,000 feet as our landing elevation. We also want to confirm that the differential pressure is 0. Our cabin altitude is approximately at field elevation, and our cabin rate of climb is also 0. Moving back up to the overhead, our air conditioning panel now, we want to confirm that our ram air switch light is out, off, and guarded. Our recirc fan can be turned to the on position as long as the cabin is below 30 degrees C, which our cabin temp is currently 22. Our left and right hand pack normally will be pressed in, and the light should be out. If we deselect a pack, then the in-op switch light, or the off switch light, excuse me, will illuminate. Moving on the air conditioning panel, both of our left and right man mode switch lights are selected out with the lights off. Our aft cargo switch can be selected into the air position, which is the middle position, if the outside air temperature is 15 degrees centigrade or higher. If it's lower than 15 degrees centigrade, then we move it to the conditioned air position. On our anti-ice panel, we want our wing and our left and right hand cowl switches to be in the off position. We have an ice detector test we can perform. We press the switch light, hold it till it lights up. We come down and check that we see an ice caution as well as an ADS heat test OK advisory message. Moving down, our windshield heats can come into low if the outside air temperature is 30 degrees C or below. Our probes are in the off position, and our miscellaneous lights can be selected as appropriate. If equipped, the stereo light will be off, the dome light can be set on or off as you prefer, and the standby compass can be selected on, off, or dim as you prefer. The no smoking seatbelt signs both get turned on. Some aircraft are equipped with only a seatbelt sign, or they have a no PED in place of the no smoking sign, which is personal electronic devices. In any case, all the switches should be turned to the on position. EMER lights switch selected to arm, and that completes the overhead. Moving down to the glare shield, we want to make sure that the autopilot, or correction, the flight director is transferred to the appropriate side. In this case, the switch light is, or the lights around the switch, excuse me, are glowing green. That tells me that it's been transferred to the right-hand side, which we can confirm by looking at the arrow right here on the PFD, showing it's pointing towards the first officer side of the aircraft. Looking also at the switch light, we want to make sure our co-pilot role and our pilot role switch lights are selected out and not illuminated. And we can come over and perform the stall test. So we will lift the guard and press the switch light until the stall test starts. When we press this, we will get the stick shaker, continuous ignition. We want to confirm it with the switch light as well as with the status message on ED2. And then after a predetermined period of time, the yokes will push forward, and we can observe this motion either on the first officer's yoke, or we can go to the flight control synoptic page and observe the elevators going to their full down pitch. I'll start the test now. All right, noisy, but it's a successful stall test. Moving down, want to make sure our ISIS is aligned. If there's any issues, that would be a good time to call maintenance. To the center pedestal, we want to make sure our horn override is out and guarded. Our anti-skid, we can perform the anti-skid test. Simply take the switch, move it to the off position. Look for both caution messages to post, return the switch to armed, and watch for the caution messages to go away. The main gear bay overheat warning test, when we push this to test, we'll get the triple chime, the gear bay overheat oral warning, as well as the master warning switch light illuminating and the gear bay overheat warning message.
Gear bay overheat. Gear bay overheat.
Release the switch and observe all the lights go out. Same thing for the overheat test warn fail. We get a single chime, the caution message will post, and the master caution switch light will illuminate. And release the switch, and it goes away. Moving on, our engine sync is selected to N1. Our high power schedule switch light is out, off, and guarded. Our indicator lights can be selected to dim or bright, whether it's day or night time. Our mechanic push switch light is out and off, and our ground, prox, flap, and terrain switch lights are both in their out, off, and guarded position. Moving down, our flight spoilers lever should be stowed. Thrust lever should be in the shut-off position. Both of our pitch and roll disconnect handles should be stowed, and our flaps should either be at 0 or whatever position they are outside currently. We will arm our thrust reversers and verify that our ground lift dumping switch is in the auto position. Moving down to the RTU, we have another first flight of day test we can perform for the TCAS here. We want to make sure, before we do the test, that the whiskers, or these hash marks, are being displayed on the inner ring of our MFD. The first officer currently has traffic turned on, and the captain currently has traffic turned off. You can see there's no whiskers displayed on the inner 5 ring, or the inner ring of the MFD. In order to perform this test normally, you need to have both the captain and the FO's displays with traffic on. And I can't reach over to that side from this seat, so we'll observe the test from here. To start the TCAS test, we'll come down to the RTU. Either one works. we'll select the R3 button to bring up the TCAS menu and press the test button. What we should see is 4 pippers, blinking traffic,
TCAS system test OK.
TCAS system test OK oral, as well as the bands on the VSI, which I will run the test again so those pop up one more time. So you got the green arcs and the 2 red arcs displayed.
TCAS system test OK.
That's a successful TCAS test. Now, coming on to the either the left or the right side mic source selector panel. In order to manipulate this is not part of the pilot monitoring pre-flight, but in terms of the captain or first officer flight deck setup. These switches here control which radios you're listening to as well as their volume. If they're out and the light is not showing, then you're not listening to it. If you select it in and it lights up, you are listening to it. You simply control the volume by rotating it back and forth. We have VHF1, VHF2, VHF3 in some aircraft that if it is equipped is disabled. HF is also disabled. And then we have the interphone or service source, which normally we leave on so we can talk to the flight attendants between the crew members, and we can talk to the ground personnel as well. Same thing works for listening to marker beacon audio, ADF receiver, nav, or DME. This is your mic source selector switch, whatever source you have the mic selected to. So if I select this all the way to the left, I'm transmitting on VHF1. Even if this is deselected, when I have a mic selected to this source, I will transmit and listen to it regardless of this switch position. Moving on, we want our receive transmit or intercom switch to be centered. Our voice both switch in both. Our speaker can be set as desired. Press it in to turn it on, deselect it to turn it off. Mask boom into boom, and our EMER norm switch in the norm position. This goes for both sides for the setup. Our radar in this aircraft is equipped with dual radar control heads. If we're flying in the vicinity of thunderstorms, we can perform the radar test. Simply select test, come up to your MFD, and if nothing is being displayed, we come over and select the radar terrain button until we get radar being displayed, although I think in this sim it only works from the left side. So my apologies. I'll come over. Yep, only works from the left side. So this is what the test looks like. We want to set the gain to 0 and the tilt to +5. The gain controller is on the left here, the tilt is here, and we observe these changes up on the MFD. So I just set the gain to 0, and now I'm going to turn the tilt up until we get to 5. We want to observe the alternating colors, and as the sweep goes back and forth, that 5th line changes back and forth between magenta and red. It's a successful radar test. We can now turn that back to off. This aircraft is equipped with a backup tuning unit. We want to make sure the backup tuning unit is set into standby. Both our RTU tune inhibit switch lights are out, and our FMS tune inhibit switch is selected off of tune inhibit. If we move the switch down, we would prevent the FMS from tuning the radios. So the blank position is the off position. Our ATC selector or transponder is selected into standby. Moving down, our stab trim is already engaged. We confirm that by the caution message not being displayed, and we can now come and engage our mock trim. We want to make sure that our display fans and our avionics fan are in the normal position, and our IRS is already aligned. Parking brake was confirmed set. Now we can double check and make sure we have the advisory message for it, which we do. Moving back up the center pedestal in the middle, this is our observer's audio control panel. Normally, if there's no observer in the seat, we want to make sure that the interphone or the intercom switch and the RT switch is centered, so if there's a headset plugged into the observer seat, we don't hear that audio bleed through. And you can select the mic source selector to anything other than PA. If you have the mic source selector in PA, anytime you turn on the PA, it will lock it open. Allow me to demonstrate. So let's say I want to make a PA. I'm going to bring my mic source selector to the PA, come down and select PA. I will make my address to the passengers, and then if I come up and try to move my mic source selector off of PA, the switch light remains on because the observer station is selected in PA. If I take this switch and move it off of PA, the PA automatically turns off. Our reversionary panel is all selected to norm. All of our intercom and public address switch lights are out. Our yaw dampers, same as our stab trim, we engage those one at a time. Simply press the switch light. We observe the caution message go away. Yaw damp 2 and up message post, I select the other one and it all goes away. Lighting set as appropriate. Another first flight of day test is here with the aileron and rudder trim. These switches, you press them to either side or rotate the rudder trim. All we're looking to do is to move each trim out of the green and into the white. As soon as it goes white, you can reverse the direction and go to the opposite white and then back to center. Same thing with the rudder trim until it goes white, back across the center until the other side goes white, and then back to green. Last first flight of day test to accomplish is the PA test. Come and select your mic source selector to PA. Select the PA switch light. Once the light goes on, you'll be able to pick up the handset, press the button to transmit, and you can test the PA. You can also do this through your headset. Once you're done testing, you don't have to press the PA switch light to turn it off. You can simply take your mic source selector and move it off of the PA, and it will turn off. This completes the pilot monitoring pre-flight procedure with first flight of day tests.